Hi everybody, this is a light language transmission. It's a continuation of Saturday's Equinox transmission. It's mainly around the twin flames, but it is translatable for any soul connections or even the divine masculine and feminine within yourself. It's highly relevant to the twin flame journey. But it's essentially about balancing the masculine and feminine, coming together, bridging the gap, and that, of course, relates very strongly to the equinox energies, equal day, equal night, etc. I would highly recommend, if you haven't had the activation from Saturday, to just look in the box below and get the do that. I will actually put little markers in the description box of the other video with the point of the activation and the point of the information about the Hara line if you just want to go to those points, although obviously it is more relevant if you watch the whole thing, but it is 37 minutes long. But there was an activation, and at the end of the activation I allowed the flames to carry on burning until the activation was complete. I always listen to the transmissions afterwards so that I fully receive them, and I listen a couple of times. And I was listening the second time and I heard this loud sound, like a gushing, like there was water pouring out of pipes or something like that. I thought like the washing machine had burst its pipes or something. And I came running out in the middle of the transmission, and what had happened was one of the heart sparklers, the divine feminine, had started sparking off, had activated, fell across and touched the divine masculine heart sparkler and set him off. And I only recorded the very, very last bit, which I will put here. But I felt it very profoundly as the completion of the activation, where that third energy sparked off, and then later it was received by the feminine, who then sparked off, who then activated the masculine by physically 3D level connecting with him. So there's a lot of themes that have come in around what's going on collectively with the masculine and feminine at this time as well, which I will go into. And it's similar, so it's the continuation also of what came up in that activation, where the frontal lobe of the brain and the third eye very much seem to be connected to what the masculine is clearing at the moment, and the throat, thyroid area connected to the feminine. And I have physically been having people contacting me, feminines with medically diagnosed thyroid issues, and the masculine with medically diagnosed frontal lobe issues. So and I've even had people contacting me about animals needing healing too, because the animals, they energetically pick up what's going on in the family, and they take it on physically, and often when you're healing the animals, the origin is from the family, and you need to clear the family, actually do energy work for the family. But what I've been perceiving is that it's really about the feminine standing in her truth and expressing who she is and expressing her higher values. The feminine is feminine energy, I'm not necessarily talking about gender, I'm talking about the energy, feminine principle. This could even be within yourself. You have both masculine and feminine within yourself. So the feminine energy is working with the upper chakras from the heart upwards, and the masculine from the heart downwards. The masculine's doing his work in the physical planes, in the very mind oriented and strategy and logic and action, and making things happening by thinking about them, and having quite a focused perspective, not really aware of the whole picture as such, more focused on what he's working on, where the feminine is much more working with intuition, feeling, being guided, feeling her way, knowing the unseen, taking into account all the factors to determine the way forward, and then the action follows from the feeling. And often she works in the energetic, so she's taking action in the energetic, which affects physical outcomes, and in the emotional and in the communication. So what I'm really feeling is the feminine setting her boundaries, staying strong in the feminine principles and expressing what she's about, and expressing also what she needs in relationship to others and how she needs to interface with that physical world, what she needs to be able to bring that knowing through and interact effectively with the masculine principle. And as that has been expressed, and I can see that here as the sword, the Ace of Swords there, the sword of truth, expressing the truth. The masculine, first on the 5D and eventually on the 3D, receives that information and processes it. So that Two of Wands there, he's standing, contemplating, looking at the horizon, contemplating. He has heard what she said, and it's not the way he sees things. So let me tell you a little story about the way shamans can heal and evolve their tribe is that they see with their third eye. So, for example, there's a story about the natives in South America when the Spanish were arriving on the ships, and they hadn't seen these big ships before. And the mind can only comprehend what it already knows. It can only see what it's already seen, what it's been taught to see. There are other things out there that we're not seeing because we're not used to seeing them, we're not used to looking for them. So they had never seen ships before, but they had seen waves, of course, ripples of waves, possibly from their own boats and things. And so none of the tribe could see the ships on the horizon, but they could see the waves. And they were, what is that? What is that? The shamans, using their third eye, could focus on those, the origins of the waves, and could see the ships. And then they could describe the ships to the tribe. And once described and comprehended, the tribes could then see them. And this is how we function. And this is why the feminine energies of perception are important in evolution and in interface with the masculine aspects of the mundane. So what I've been feeling is the feminine really working through those lower chakras of survival and bringing those herself into balance, bringing in her higher consciousness, her higher knowing, her feeling senses. So she's being both the shaman and the tribe. So the tribe would be the base chakras and the survival, the ones doing all the work on the ground. So she's bringing that in herself, and as she works on her lower chakras and grounds all of that in her own life, she's the masculine is then starting to be able to see it. He wasn't able to see that. And when I spoke about the frustration of the masculine being locked in, and this is what I mean, he's locked into that 3D reality, he's locked into his mind, he's locked into what he's focused on in the ground based on his beliefs and what he's been taught and culture, and he's supposed to be because that's where his role has been, and he needs to be holding that strongly to be able to transform it when these feminine energies come in. So the feminine has been angry and frustrated at constantly telling and expressing what she sees and what she knows, and the masculine not listening or not able even to hear her or see what she's talking about. Partly because, in the story I told the tribe on the beach, they respected and trusted the shaman, and so they listened to what he said and they looked on the horizon and they tried to see it. And this is what she's not feeling from the masculine. So she's angry, she's trying to bring this in, he's just doing his thing, and not on purpose, but he is in that phase for a reason, and that's where he needs to be. But she's frustrated, he's not getting there quick in her timing. And, he's shutting her out because he's busy doing the stuff he's supposed to be doing on the lower. But as she then expresses, so as this equinox has come in, and the energies are ripe for this. So this is what I was saying in the previous transmission, is that she's locked out and he's locked in, and there's a lot of anger and pain, and a lot of this is related to past lives as well. And I was feeling this around the atlas, where the neck meets the head, around the third eye and the throat. And then the sparkler went off and it all cleared. So what I've felt on the 5D level and what's reflected in this reading is the feminine in the 3D expresses her truth of who she is at a 3D level, how she interfaces at 3D level, what she needs, what she brings, with confidence and with self-loving and courage, and not making excuses for herself and not blaming the masculine or anybody else for whatever's not working or for not being heard or for not being listened to, but actually listening to herself and respecting herself and honouring herself in what she's here and what she's doing, not in a defensive way, in a loving way. And he, when he's ready, hears that in the card above that, the Two of Wands. He takes it in and he thinks about it, and somehow in the thinking, with that shift that we had through the frontal lobe there, so he's contemplating there with his frontal lobe, he's looking out at the horizon, and he's realizing, based on what she said or what she's expressing, I was seeing it from a different perspective, and I was judging and I was projecting. Now I see where you're coming from. Now I see the possibilities in the 3D world of what can be created when we bring those higher energies in, when I trust the feminine energies instead of dismissing them. And we can see this as, moving out of patriarchy, where the feminine principles have been suppressed, and a lot from fear and control. So when he says, wow, I don't need to control, I can trust this, and opens up his perspective. And this came through the shifts in the frontal lobe in the previous transmission, and also through the shift in the throat of the feminine, which then activated the shift in the frontal lobe of the masculine. So with that, we move to the card next to that, the Hanged Man. As he's contemplated and he's seen from a different perspective, this card is the different perspective. There's a surrender. There's a surrender to the moment, to the being, and a trust in timing. And this is where I felt the heart activate. The heart activate so big and so strong, and it came from the realization, from actually hearing her, and then realizing, and then looking at it differently, and then reviewing the past as well, and realizing how he's reacted to this and projected, and getting clarity around himself, his own actions, his own life. The heart activation, the seeing clearly, the seeing the feminine clearly, then the seeing all feminines clearly. And then next to that is the Tower. So this is where I felt the sparkler go off in the previous transmission. So you can see the eye, the all-seeing eye at the top there, the sparkler going off, the divine intervention coming, and there it's burning off all the false structures, leveling the playing field, getting rid of everything that's false now, because everything that's false now is no longer relevant, no longer useful, and it's this divine intervention that has it's really like the whoosh from the higher aspects of self coming down and activating. So I felt the heart massively activate, followed by the crown, followed by the third eye and the throat, and then this whoosh of divine flow come in and bridge the masculine and feminine together, the upper chakras with the lower chakras. And this came from, like I said, the feminine expressing her truth. So her sparkler falling onto his sparkler, he somehow, it triggers him to see things differently, for him to then access the truth himself and activate his own divine feminine, his own ability to access the divine truth, and not just see from a limited 3D perspective. Obviously there will be shades of this for everyone, because everyone's at their own level in the journey, but this still will be relevant to the next level for everybody in the journey. And then, so underneath the Hanged Man is the 8. This is sudden, fast-moving energy. So through that masculine changing perspective in the 3D, there's a receiving of fast-moving energy into action, into basically you can see there's green leaves on those wands. So things start to take shape, things start to grow. It's also here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're moving into spring. So it's that fruition of the things you've been putting your energy into, that you've been manifesting, begin to grow. So we're all masculine, we're all feminine. So it's that masculine principles, getting it, picking up the higher, and they start to grow in physical form, in physical reality, with the combination of the feminine knowing and guidance and the masculine action and strategic know-how. And then the final card there is the Queen of Cups, and that is the cup full of divine love, that divine balance of masculine and feminine energy in that cup, divine love available in her hands, for her to offer, for her to overflow with. It's received, and you can see the waters, the spiritual energies, the emotional energies, they're calm. And so this feels like the real coming together, the bridging of the gap, the balance within ourselves, and then therefore also the balance in the relationships between the twins, whoever's embodying the masculine and feminine principles. So as all this was happening, and I was receiving this information and putting it all together, I looked outside and there was a ray of light shining through the clouds, and it looked like it was activating 2 flames, 2 points of bright light, and connecting them. And as that happened, it beamed down to the earth, and then it will be activating everything in its path with light and love. And then as I photographed that through the heart, which is what I had felt energetically on the 5D, that is activated through the heart, then I saw all the other rays come through and activate in the same way. So it was like all the twin flame hearts activating, and all the hearts in the world activating and shining their light and doing their work together as divine masculine and feminine in unity. So beautiful. I hope you can really feel the profundity of all of that. And I'm going to just see if there's any light language that wants to come through. Asakataka kataka choko sotoko toko 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 choko koso toko toko bataka chaka sataka taka toko sotoko choko poso toko 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 choko sotaka kaka sataka kaka toko cho. Asakata sakataka toko toko cho soko toko sotoko toko chopo kasataka sakatoko toko soko toko koko. Asakataka taka choko sataka sataka sakatoko koto toko choko sotoko toko choko sotoko soko toko choko ko. Asakataka taka choko sotoko soko soko toko soko soko toko toko choko sotoko sotoko bataka chaka sataka sakataka kaka toko koko. Asachaka sataka sakataka kochoko sotoko botoko choko sotoko soko toko 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 choko sotoko toko choko soko toko toko choko Okocho soko toko soko toko Asachaka sakataka kasataka choko sataka bataka choko sotoko koko 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 toko choko sotoko ko akataka kasataka kachoko sotoko botoko choko sotoko bataka chaka kasataka bataka chaka kakataka kakasa asastaka taka taka saka choko sotoko koko 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 sotoko boto asakataka sakataka koko sotoko ko toko choko soko toko sotoko botoko ko asakataka kasataka chaka sakataka choko soko toko koko toko botoko I'm being reminded of the 8 and the lion. So the 8 is the infinity. It's also the lion's gate. The lion's gate portal is the 8. And the lion is also courage, and it's the heart, and it's the sun, and it's the masculine. So the lion is behind the masculine there. It takes him a lot of courage to actually deepen into those dark places in his heart and see things from a different perspective, admit maybe that he was blinkered, and change the way he sees the world, and take that time out of surrender to allow things around him to change, and then to make those changes in his life and bring those old structures down that are not relevant to his new perspective, the perspective of who he really is and how the bigger picture, and how he fits into that. And it takes the feminine huge courage to really listen to herself and her knowing, and stand up for that, and make it clear that that's all she'll accept, because this is who she is, and she won't accept any false structures. And there's also a dove there in the Tower card, the dove of peace, as the false structures are coming down. The dove of peace is there to harmonize and bring the loving energies of peace during the transformation. And I've also got the image of the feminine following her northern star, her guiding star, her knowing. She may be a star being, so like really connecting to the celestial energies, her star origins, if it's angelic origins. Really bringing those frequencies in, like the beams coming from through the clouds. And also to trust that no matter how stubborn the masculine may have appeared to be, and how closed off, it all has been for a reason, and trust him that he is capable of accessing that truth, and how transformative that truth is when he does access it. It is transformative. The limited, blinkered behaviour is like a cage he's been in, that he's had to be in, to transform those patterns that we've been, as humanity, living through. He had to be undercover in those, deep undercover in those structures, in order to transform them when he does access the light and love. So those structures are coming down, so trust that he actually knows what he's doing in the 5D, the high level of soul, and that you are working together as souls, regardless of how that feels in physical reality and how it plays out, and that that is transformed by the opening of the heart. It really does shift out very quickly the egoic, limited perspectives, and life really does shift when that happens. Things are let go of. Trust that he is who you know him to be, underneath all of those false structures. And the masculine, trust your heart, trust that everything you've been through, as hard as it has been, I feel like crying at how hard it's been for the masculine, that it's all been worth it, and that you have been supported by the energies of the feminine all the way through, even if it hasn't felt like that from the perspective of what you know, what you've been taught. Got a lot of emotion coming through from the masculine. A lot of throat activation. My body's shaking. As that's all purging out through the cells of the body, through the legs especially. crowns wide open. The masculine's been dealing with extremely toxic, wounded feminine. I'm not talking about the divine feminine, I'm talking about in the relationships he has chosen to be in, or even that he's incarnated into, because this is what he's supposed to be working with and transmuting. It's been extremely hard for him because he is a sensitive, just like the feminine. And he's had to suppress that and deny that in order to get to this point where he is now fully experience it from the inside. Okay, now this is coming back into balance. Okay. And now he can see you. Now he's allowed to see the feminine. But it's been a really big realization for him. No matter how much you've been telling him and showing him, and he wasn't able to fully get it, even if he maybe intellectually understood some of it and was drawn to it. He had to deny it and push it away until he had got to this point. Apatokoko, asapatokoko tokocho. Akakakakatakakokokoko. I'm just feeling that clearing down past the solar plexus now. So we've got this strong line from heaven all the way down to earth. Atokokoko. Still just Harulan just straightening up. It feels like this is through the masculine, down from the sacral downwards. Through the base chakra, down into the earth star now. And then that really opens up the soul star. Okay, we're landing. Just feel like saying well done to the masculine, like that he's can be more embodied now after going through such trauma. And the feminine too, just like such hard work, so much emotional pain, so much being denied and rejected and abandoned in order to love and respect and honor and be present for herself. It feels like success and congratulations for a job well done. Okay. Well, I hope you can all receive those energies. And do make sure you take the time, drink a lot of water, maybe listen to it a few times if you need to. Blessings.